I've got so much paper on my desk right now.
Okay, we're live now with everything.
Okay, right.
And
Barb, if you
first
want to
commit-
proceed.
Mr. Morris, would you give us your update, please?
Yeah, I don't have anything. Three Rivers Wet Weather didn't send me anything. I don't have anything else.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Brandhover, may we have the engineer's report, please?
Sure. The first item that I have is for the park and ride project. As of right now, we're working with Dragon Contracting. They should be out there completing work in the next month or two once it warms up enough. For the Ashley Court to Ardmore Sanitary Sewer Project, we're waiting to hear back on the PA Small Water and Sewer Grant. For the Watt Lane Headwall Project, that went in the paper today. So bids will be opened on March 22nd at 11 a.m. at the Borough Building. The same for the street paving. They'll be opened on March 22nd. You can see a full list of the 7 streets we put to bid and then the 3 alternates that we listed. The Avenue D sewer, that was opened on February 22nd, and I attached the letter that Bob Z put together. He's recommending, and I agree with him, that it was too high and we need to put the project, either rebid it or try and go through the CoStars program for that project. I think that would be a good idea to try for this. So I think we'll need a motion to reject that bid at the next meeting. And then the last item that I have is for the Forest Hills Road Drainage Project. And again, that went in the paper today and bids will be opened on March 22nd.
Before we move on, did anyone have anything to ask or comment?
Regarding the Avenue D sewer, what is the issue there that makes the bid so high for that?
I think that our main problem is that we only got 1 bid, and I think that in conversations, I'm not sure that it was a priority project for them. I think that we would have better luck with the CoStars program or even putting it out to bid and trying to get more than 1 bidder.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Any other questions? Then let's move on, please, to the foreman's report, Mr. Thielacker.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I got my list of projects for March on there. If anybody has any questions, you can ask. Please speak up. And I have the projects that were completed. And that's about it for me.
I wanted to just check in briefly, but before I do that, I wanted to say how nice the flivver door looks. It matches perfectly with the other doors back there. So thank you for a really nice job on that and whoever worked on that as well. Have we heard anything more about the Avenue L playground equipment? I thought the last time we had only received a partial shipment. Is that correct?
No, we got like a little computer disc to put in. I think we didn't even look at it yet, but that's all we got. We have gotten nothing yet. Nothing.
Okay. And would we be able to add the pickleball courts on to get the nets up? And if there's painting or anything that needs done, residents have been asking when they'll be ready to go.
Yeah, we just got the posts in, so we've got a core drill. But we've got to have we got to be able to take a water tank down there with us. There's no water there, so we're trying to wait a little bit till the ground dries up, because we're gonna tear the living heck out of everything up there if we try to get in there now to do anything, you know.
What do we need a water truck for? Just
When,
out of curiosity.
when we're core drilling, we gotta use water. When we're drilling the holes for the posts to anchor, to cement them into
I
the
see.
asphalt up there.
Okay,
Yeah. But, I mean, I'll try to do it this month, depending on the weather and, but we keep getting rain every other day. It's not looking real good here.
okay. Thank you then. Did anyone have any comments? Okay, then moving on to the committee business report. Pre-ordering of the electric Ford F-150. I believe Mr. President wanted us to consider this. I understand there's a large wait time if we order an electric vehicle. We think possibly in April, we may hear from the grant we applied for. So I'm asking for any discussion from any council member.
I'd like to wait until we know whether we're going to be in the COG grant before we put out a bid for a truck. Because if we get that onto the COG grant, it'll be considerably cheaper in any case, because it'll be a group purchase.
Well, the other side to that is that it takes a long time to get this truck. And whether we get the grant or we don't, we would at least have a, a purchase order in, and we'd be waiting. We're likely to wait a year, maybe even more before we even got the truck.
Well, would our deposit be refunded if we get the grant?
I believe so.
Okay,
We can check into that, but I believe
I
that
would,
was,
I would verify that before we do the order.
I heard
Yeah,
that
if I
that's true as well, that we could get
Yeah,
the refunded.
Okay,
Yeah, if I could follow up, I'm not sure Ford is taking any more orders for 2023 calendar year. So they may not be even accepting orders for till next year. So it could be a full 2.5 years before we'd actually get that vehicle.
Well, I would like to take a vote then about what people think, given that it may be that long. What do you think? Mr. Bioki?
well, I recommend that we put in a bid, or not a bid, but, try to do a purchase for that, at least to hold our place in line.
to do a pre-order.
Yeah.
All right,
Are you okay with it then, Vice President DeMarco?
as long as the deposit is refundable if we get the grant. I don't want to do a deposit and then have a grant and say, oh, well, too bad, so sad,
Okay, Mr. Lawrence?
Fine with me.
Okay, Mr. Burley?
Yes, it's fine with me.
I'm good with that as well.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions? Any comments? Okay, Mr. Morris?
Do you want that as a motion? Or are you saying you want to do something immediately
I would like that as a motion,
on
please.
March 22nd? Okay.
Yes. If there's nothing else, then that ends Public Works.
Okay,
Okay, I
Then
need a
we'll-
couple minutes or a few seconds rather, before I get to borough property.
Barb, you're on deck.
Well, all the work's been done for me. You look at these agendas, so.
I know.
Okay, I'm good, Miss Martin.
Okay, go ahead.
Ready to
Yeah.
start us off, Mr. Morris?
Yeah, manager's update. A couple of things here. First, summer hires. We inadvertently left off several people on the list for the summer hires. I'm not exactly sure how that happened because I actually think some of these were being held by somebody and they came in late. But in any case, I would need to put these three folks on the March 22nd agenda to authorize their hiring by council.
Oh, yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. The second thing I have on here, the Rec Lodge. You may remember that whenever we're going to dispose of something that's owned by the borough that still may be useful, we have to follow the procedure that's in a resolution, which requires that Ms. Martin, in this case, announce what we're trying to get rid of at the next public meeting, and then put that list on our bulletin board and wait a couple of weeks to see if anybody wants to bid on them. And if they do, they can get them for whatever bid they bid, $5, $1, or if not, then we can dispose of them. Now, there are some things that are Westinghouse things up there that are just in bad shape. We're just getting rid of them. But in these cases, these are all things, as far as I know, that are
Which one?
borough property. So I'm going to put this list on there. I don't know if we'll have anything more in time for that meeting, but I'll put this list on the March 22nd meeting. And we will dispose of them if there's no objection after we follow that process. Is that okay with everyone?
Fine.
I have a
Uh,
question. Are those items, do they need to be decontaminated?
I don't know what you mean. We
Well,
can sell them as
Mo-
is.
Most of the items there were covered with mold.
They are.
So are those items covered with mold, and do they
No,
need to
as
be?
far as we can tell, they're not. The ones that are moldy, we're getting rid of.
I mean, that stuff could be hidden underneath file cabinets and such. So I don't know. I'd be careful.
Somebody would take it as is. That I have to follow a certain process to be able to get rid of stuff. That's what's in the resolution.
Yeah, I think if you
Okay.
say that there as is in existing condition, it's up to the, people who bid on it to have a look.
Yeah, I would warn them that it's been in a moldy area. I
I'm-
certainly wouldn't want to bring in mold spores into an area.
Are there any other comments? I have a question. Would there be much left in there after this process when we finish up, Mr. Morris?
I don't know how much Jim has already taken out. I know the last week or two, he took a bunch of stuff out. Jim, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm still here.
How much did you take out last time, last week?
We took a good bit of stuff out of there. There's a few more. Remember, I said we had to move some stuff around. Get at to see if there was tags on some of that inner stuff. There was a few more of those foul four door shelf things. I think there was like 3 of them left. And that might be about it, but there is some more. There's a bunch more drawings in there yet, Steve.
Yeah, the only, we're not removing things yet that still have drawings, because we have to go through them. We have a whole pile of them over at the other building right now that we're going through, and we just can't take any more right now. So those files would have to stay over there for a little bit while longer till we can get through all that.
Well, there certainly has been a lot of work done. I thank everyone.
Absolutely.
Any
Uh,
other comments? Did you want to continue then, Mr. Morris?
Yeah,
please?
the solicitor, as I mentioned here, did advise that we can dispose of anything that's damaged. So there are some things that are not in one piece, they're falling apart, maybe a leg missing or whatever. Like, for example, the one I mentioned here, the number comes, by the way, from our logging, the list we have that have been logged for years and years and years. That, for example, file cabinet we're disposing of. There's a bench over there with the broken leg we're disposing of. Those kind of things we can just get rid of.
I would
Oh.
consider treating the piano in that manner, because that piano is completely moldy and a lot of the keys are broken. It has strings missing. It's not really salvageable, that piano. The soundboard is cracked and moldy. I would consider that not salvageable or saleable.
Well, then we can just throw that away.
I would recommend it. I did look at it because I thought I could get an organization to take it, but it's really in hazardous condition, I would say.
Okay, Jimmy, did you hear that?
It's the piano in the basement of the Westinghouse Lodge, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah,
We'll just get rid of it.
we'll dispose of it.
Thank you.
I'll remove that from my,
Yeah,
my list then. Okay, item C, there's two security issues I want to bring up. One, as you know, we have been working on getting a quote for, I don't know what you would say, modernizing the pool, what have you, by allowing for some kind of a keypad system up there to open the gates, open the lodge. So we did get a quote from SSA, which includes, by the way, one camera for now. We're not going to go any further than that, but it would allow for a gated, I'm sorry, a lock system on the lodge, the double doors in the lodge, the upper part now, and then also allow for a keypad system on the gate, so that in the future we'll be able to do what we do at the municipal building, go into a computer, put in a temporary code, a temporary number for somebody who wants to have a party or what have you, and then they'll be able to use that number for that evening or that day, and that number will expire after that. So $10,259 plus the monthly monitoring fee, $30. Now, we're not going to put anything right now. And by the way, Walt's aware of this. He's not able to be on here tonight, as far as I know, but Walt is aware of this, and he's fine with all this too. We're not going to put. We decided not to put a keypad on the gate that goes down the stairs to the pool because we want to keep that with a padlock for now. That may change in the future, but at this point, we thought that was the best thing. We're just worried about the upper part for people who are using the lodge. If they're going to have a pool party, obviously there has to be lifeguards, and they would be the ones who would be able to open the gate and let people in down to the pool area. So that is all these things here you see are things that are okay. That were proposed by SSA. And I just wanted to mention it to you before I give SSA the go ahead. I know you've talked about this before, so I'm assuming there is no problem giving them the go ahead. But I wanted to mention that to you in case you had any questions about that.
and those things are both included in the budget for this year, so there's no expectation that it will exceed the allocated
Well,
amount.
if it's, yeah, they are. And if it's not in the budget, we'll take it out of the building fund.
Okay,
I have some more stuff about the building I want to tell you about though, too.
This looks good to
okay.
me.
Okay, the other part of this is the 4400 building. We're going to do some security improvements, and these actually started with the last council and the last council president. $11,267 for some improvements. Mainly what I want to do is put a keypad system on the community room. I don't know why we didn't do that to begin with. A keypad system that's better than the one we have now on the council room, and a keypad on the small conference room door. And in addition, we're going to add a camera in the office. We actually do have a camera in there right now anyway. I originally didn't schedule one there because I thought the employees would think, you know, they were being spied on or looked on and have problem with it. But actually the employees were the ones who requested that I do that. We have a kind of a I don't know how you say it. It's a portable camera that we're using right now. So money for that would also come from the building fund or the budget. There's plenty of money in both to handle that.
So will we have this as a motion then on the 22nd?
For the whole thing, or
Yeah.
yeah, well, I was going to get SSA to start though to order the stuff if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Can I have
I
it
am.
ratified, or
Yeah.
does anybody have an objection to that?
No objection.
no objection.
Okay, so I will just put a motion to ratify this decision,
Mhm.
if that's okay. Let me just
Great,
make a
thank you.
note. Let me just make a note on that on my paper.
Yeah, as long as there's no budget, allocation required beyond what's in the budget already, I think.
Right. Well, just realize that the capital improvements budget, when we take money out of that, everything has to go to you first because we have a lot more projects than we have cash for
Right.
this particular year. As some of you know, I know Ms. Martin's aware of this because she and I have been meeting on this at different times. We also were engaging an architect for the 4400 building.
Right.
We had originally talked to Jimmy DeCecco, but found out that he has left Foffman, and he deferred to Foffman since he did most of the work here. So even though Jimmy is doing the Rec Lodge work, I brought Rob up and one of his associates to take a look. And with the three things we were looking at that council had, the two of which for sure the council had talked about. The third one is optional. It may or may not be needed. We'll see how that works. Finishing the wall between the community room and library. He's going to give us a proposal for that. Installing a carport for police cars. We're not sure. The original plan for the library was to not have the library. So that would have been just a solid wall. The original plan for the carport was to install over at least 2 spaces, possibly bigger, and include solar on top. So we're going to have Rob look at that. And then the third thing, which is not necessarily critical, but we had wanted to have an additional exit in the building because there really isn't anything directly, if you're familiar with the building. Originally, we were supposed to have an exit door in the employee lunchroom. It was going to open up onto a small deck and then a step or two, and then go out into the grass. And we cut that out too, just like we cut the carport out and the other stuff. So Rob is going to give me a proposal on all three of those things. Of course, once I get them, I will share them with you so that we can take a look at it. He believes that this can all be accomplished without a significant outlay of money. As you know, we have several $100,000 in the building fund, and I mentioned that to him. He said that should be well more than we need, based on what his initial look was. So we'll see what he says about that. I
Mr.
didn't have
Morris,
this. Yeah.
I'm sorry, one question, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
For the first, finishing the wall between the community room and the library, will that include the part up top?
Just asking.
Yes.
Okay,
Part up
great.
top and the doors.
Thank you.
And they seem to think we would be able to get reimbursement or sell those parts to get some money back on those things.
Oh, that's
By the
good.
way,
I had a
the other thing I wanted to mention too, the architect is looking at, if you've been up the building recently, you've noticed that in the front hallway, we have several lights that are burned out.
Mhm.
And we don't understand how that happened since they're so new.
And they're
but
LED, they should have lasted, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, but apparently we've been going through the lighting company, and we've also been trying to be in touch with Delray, which is the company that actually sold us those hanging lights that come, the ones that come down, and in fact have a picture of our hallway on one of their brochures. But yet the lights have been discontinued, and the bulbs are not being made anymore from what we've been told. Rob thinks that's incorrect. We've talked to several people, and we've been going through this for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months now, because we've been trying to go all over the place looking on eBay, et cetera, for light bulbs. And we've had, like I said, the lighting company that was in that did the original installation, and they had some recommendations that didn't pan out as far as, working is concerned. You may notice I put a floor lamp there near the library that was on a timer, although I think somebody keeps taking it off the timer, that would light up that area of the hallway better. So he's going to look at that too. Phil Brusco from our crew has been working on that along with Jimmy, and he's going to look at that and see if he can't get something in concrete from the lighting company. He believes that still should be available to us. So that's the fourth thing I forgot to add on to this list. Does anybody have any questions?
I had a quick question. Could you have them confer with the Siemens people about the solar panels and deck? Because I know they're doing some engineering on that as well. So I'd like to make sure they're in sync.
Yeah.
When you talk to Foffman, have him get in touch with either Jonathan Zeller or Ted Bernadowski.
Okay.
Thank you.
My next item is just a note that we have continued to show the senior center. Ms. Martin has taken a lot of the requests lately. I did a few.
Thank you.
Mr. Thielacker has also done it a few times. Still haven't had any offers. I've talked to a number of people. I've mentioned, as Mr. Oberdinger has said in the past, that council would be willing to entertain different uses depending on what they were looking at. It is zoned as a residential district R2, which does limit it. But we've told them that we'd like to know what they want to do, and we'll take it to council and see if it requires a zoning change. Of course, that takes a while to do, a few months, but regardless, we are letting people know that we're open to discussing what their intent is. But so far, no one has put in an offer. And the last thing I have then is the outstanding items. Just to update you, we still haven't heard any word yet from the bus accident insurance company, the insurance company for the bus related to the bus accident. We're waiting to hear on that. And the Centennial Clock, Public Works crew members had submitted a few questions to Lumicron. They've been resolved. We've signed the design paperwork. They're going to start sending some items to us as far as things we're going to install for the foundation, which we're going to do. And then in the meantime, they are working on the clock itself, and we're in touch with them back and forth every week or so. We talk with them, and it will go in a corner of the building up near the flagpoles and the sign area that's along Greensburg Pike there. That's all I have to report. Does anybody have anything else for me? Any questions or any comments? Okay, I'm finished.
Okay, great. Anyone have anything for the rec board? Okay, then let us move on, please. Ms. Brandhoover, could we have the engineer's report?
Certainly. The first item that I have is the blight remediation grant. We still have the $19,800 for 21 Marion Avenue that unfortunately we cannot change the address for. The next item is the Westinghouse Lodge. The asbestos remediation and waterproofing has been completed, and the basement doors and trench drain have been received. Installation is being coordinated with Jim so that it doesn't interfere with any scheduled events, and it should be done sometime this month. The last item that I had is the GTRP grant applications. Those are for trails, parks, and recreation. There is a $250,000 max and a 15% match. I have a list of a few options that was put together with Jim. The first one is at Main Park. It includes Shelter 3, the playground equipment, and a bridge over the stream. The second item is shelter and/or playground equipment at Cook Park. And then the last option would be some kind of comprehensive plan that includes both of those locations, other locations throughout the borough. I mean, it would be up to you guys what you wanted to apply for, pretty much, if you want to apply.
I spoke with Mr. Thielacker, and he had mentioned that bridge over the stream. That's definitely I would consider essential. Now, Vice President DeMarco, could you talk to us about the comprehensive park project? I believe that's part of the climate action plan.
I think it's in the active transportation plan. And what we had in mind there, I think, was one of the catalyst projects where we would be upgrading the trails through the parks. Some of them are in pretty bad condition and are not marked well, and to make connections to the sidewalks out into the community. So there are places where there are trails in the parks, but in order to get to them, you have to drive around to a parking lot. And there are several areas that we marked on maps where we could make connections by extending the trails to the edge of the sidewalks in the communities into which they back. And I think, I don't remember how many of those there are, but I know that the active transportation plan did include some evaluation of the fact that most of the trails are really not well, they're okay, but they're not, for example, they need to be chipped. In some cases, you have deadfalls across them, and we need to have a look at what needs to be upgraded in the trail system for better pedestrian access. If you're just one person with, single file, it's not too bad. But if you wanted to have someone, for example, with a walker or a wheelchair definitely not going to work. But we could do some things to make them a little more accessible and a little safer.
Well, given that we have a 15% match.
Yeah.
Okay, 37.5. Someone's already figured it out.
Yeah.
That would be, thank you for that. That would be what we'd have to put into this.
Yeah.
I like everything here. Now, the playground equipment, I'm just wondering about. We write that, but who knows how many years it'll take to get that in both of these areas. But I'm all about playground equipment too. Kids like to go down there and have fun. It's very nice.
Yeah, I think we need to look at what, Mr. Morris, the 37,000 match, do we have somewhere we could take that kind of money from without messing up the budget?
Depending on what project you do, you have some things in the capital improvements plan already, like money for shelters for the main park.
Okay,
There is money for the Cook Park shelter somewhere. I don't remember. I'm looking at it now and I'm not seeing it, but I know we put some money. Oh, here it is. 25,000 for that shelter. Because it's estimated that needs to be replaced the next year or two.
yes,
So there's money on various places there that you could take out of the capital budget.
okay,
I would estimate that if you did get the grant, that most likely the project wouldn't happen until 2024 anyways, with how slowly things have been moving. So, I mean, I don't know what's in the budget for this year, but it would probably be next year.
what's the due date for this grant?
That's not due until May 31st.
Okay, I'd like to have a look at the application requirements before we have to decide on all these particulars, if that would be okay, if we have time. So if you could tell me where I could find that, I'd like to have a look at it.
I'll send you over the link and
Yep.
the PDF file of everything.
Excellent.
You can look at it. Okay.
Thank
Could
you.
Sounds good.
Could I suggest too that Walt Reamer should be keyed in on this as well, since it's a recreation projects?
Good idea.
I'll mention it to him. I mean, he did get a copy of all this stuff today too, but I'll mention it to him as well.
So could
So
you
he-
send the grant file to him as well, please?
I can do that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, we're moving on. Mr. Thielacker, the foreman's report, please.
Yes, the first thing on there is the pool benches. We checked into the I forget what it's called, the plastic wood
Uh-huh.
for putting on the benches instead of the womanized wood up at the pool for all those benches. And the one thing is it's about $4,000 for the plastic wood and about $1,000 for the womanized wood. But the problem is we're all my guys, we were looking at everything and it's not enough support to support that plastic. We're afraid it's going to bow real bad where the wood doesn't. Those benches are all galvanized pipe frames, which are all in good shape here. So I don't know. It's my recommendation just to replace them with the womanized wood, and you're going to save a bunch of money here. But they are in bad shape, the wood. I mean, there's some chances kids could get splinters off them and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I wouldn't want to sit on them.
Oh,
Question, how does that compare with buying new benches that are similar to the ones that are outside the Borough Building?
Oh, I think if I'm not mistaken, one bench outside the Borough Building, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was about $750, Angelo.
Yeah, I seen them for 400, but that's why I asked.
Okay. So, but I mean, that's up to you.
Jimmy, is there a reason why these benches are movable and not fixed? I mean, if you got
Oh, yeah.
benches, if you got benches like what we have at the municipal building, you need to fix them, correct?
Well, not necessarily, because they're gonna be inside the pool grounds. So, but what we do is we pick them up and put them underneath the shelter. I mean, underneath the deck anyway to protect them from the weather.
Do they have, what I mean is, do they have enough support without being screwed into concrete or somewhere to let people sit comfortably without any problem? Or do you need to have them fixed to be able to allow people safely to sit there? That's what I'm asking. I don't know.
And I mean, you may have to fix them, Steve, because they are lighter weight, so you may have to anchor them to the ground. The other thing is, Angelo, those are smaller benches we put up the Bird Building. Those are only 4 foot. I'm pretty sure these ones up at the pool, I think they're 8 foot long, all these benches.
Well, no, there's two that are longer than 4, Jim.
All right, 6. The longer ones are 6. Yeah. So, but that's up to you folks.
What do you think? Go with the wood for 1,000,
I would,
Mr. Bioki?
I'm for looking at alternatives, but if the group wants to go with that, you're still gonna have to maintain those in some way, either paint them or they're gonna have to be varnished or, so.
Yeah, and we did that. It's been a few years, but we did, we polyurethane them, Angelo.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Right.
So,
Okay,
so you
anyone
can
else?
go with maintenance or no maintenance. And again, I'm just looking at what would make more sense. Those benches kind of look like 1940s, 50s. Do we want to upgrade, what's at the pool, or do we want to keep it the way it is? That's.
It's a retro look, Angela.
Retro look. It's definitely retro.
Well, if no one else has anything to say, let's go with the wood and we'll try to work this out later. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right.
All right, Dwight. It's okay, then I'm gonna get started on this so that we have them ready for when the pool opens, because I think we have about 20 we have to change all the wood on, so, okay?
Okay, thank you. Mhm.
Okay. The second thing is I got fence quotes for up at behind the Westinghouse Lodge building in 2 locations. The first location was $1,806 from Precision Fencing was the lowest bid. And the second location is there's 2 spots out in the Westinghouse baseball field. And the lowest bid was $3,277. I got 3 quotes from 3 different companies, and that one is also from Precision Fencing. So if it's okay with you folks, you guys, I guess you could vote on this in the March meeting.
Well, it looks like we're under budget on there by the note. So I see no problem with it. Anyone else?
What kind of fencing is it? Is it, it's chain link fencing? Is it coated, uncoated?
You know what? Hang on. Hang on. I can get back to you. I got it in the folder if you want me to look.
I'm just
Yeah,
wondering.
It's galvanized.
Yeah, but I mean that the fencing that's up there, it's a lot of it is rusted. And I just wanted to make sure that we were getting something that wasn't going to.
well, if you get
deteriorate.
galvanized fence, it shouldn't rust.
Well, I'm just saying that parts of those fencing areas are rusted. So as long as we're not getting something that's going to require replacement again. So
No.
Painting.
Yeah, the main thing that's been doing the damage up there, folks, is trees are falling onto them. And that's what's causing our damage all the time. So, okay. And the third thing was the senior citizens floor. We had a water break over there when we had that real cold snap around Christmas time. We had the insurance company in. We found out last week that the insurance is not gonna pay for any repairs at all in that building. So, I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Well, I have a question. Why do we pay insurance then?
I can't answer that.
Well, I didn't mean,
They claimed that because the building was empty and it was unoccupied, we weren't using it anymore.
well, I'm just wondering, what does the insurance cover then?
Well, this is something I want to ask why we have water on in that building at this time. I mean, the water bill was $40 this month in there. I just paid it the other day.
We-
If that building is unoccupied and being shown, why do we have to have the water on? I understand the electricity for the
it-
security lights and such, but
It feeds the boiler, Patty.
Oh,
The boiler
okay.
for the hot water that
Okay.
heats the building. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
okay, they have a steam heat. Okay,
right. Yep.
okay.
Yeah, and we didn't realize that we had shut other stuff off and we missed that for in
Yeah.
the kitchen area there. And see, there was no heat in the kitchen area up there at all. There's no radiators or anything. And it just got cold and it broke that pipe.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I don't know about getting a floor installed. If someone does buy it, they would want to choose their own, I'm sure. I feel we'd be out an expense there. But it could use swept up. A lot of that tile that's down there now with the water, it's just disintegrated. I don't know what's worse, sweeping it up or letting it down there. Anybody else have an opinion here?
I'd leave it alone. It's being sold as is. So
Okay. If no one has anything more to say, let's move on then, Mr. Thielacker.
Yep. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. I thought you were going to jump to the next thing. The last thing I have is I went with Walt the other day and I was showing him the buildings and we took a walk out to the tennis court. And I guess he got the message or somebody, but they're mentioning it, and I agree. The tennis courts need cleaned. And I have two names from two companies that I just got actually today. And with your permission, I can call them and maybe have them give us an estimate on cleaning the tennis courts.
That'd be
That's-
like power washing? Is that,
Yeah, they power wash them and then they also, when they're done, if any of the lines need repainted, they repaint the lines too.
I thought council last year had approved it was going to be $100 for power washing, and that never occurred. Is that correct?
that's what I remember too.
Yeah. And I think Kelly was gonna do it, the cleaning lady,
Uh-huh.
but I don't know, nothing ever happened. Yeah.
Well, should we talk to Kelly again?
Yeah, sure, if you folks want to do that, sure.
she's
Yeah,
gonna
I'd
be
like
able-
to move forward on it.
Is she going to be able to paint the lines if they need repainted?
No, she wouldn't be able to do that. No.
Does anyone else have anything? Okay, well then, we'll be adding those things to the 3/22 meeting, Mr. Morris. I'm sorry, you're muted, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't hear that.
I just said would be adding these items then to the 3/23 meeting then.
Oh, just as a reporter, do you feel you need a motion for anything?
We need a motion, right? Or can we just go
Well,
ahead
The
with
full
that?
benches, no. The fence quotes, yes. City citizen floor, really, no. I mean, and then
Yeah.
cleaning the tennis courts until you get quotes, you don't really need anything.
Well, we're gonna talk to Kelly.
Get her a paintbrush, one of
Yeah.
those rollers,
Okay, well, that looks like, unless anyone else has anything for the Environmental Advisory Council or the Tree and Shrub Committee. Looks like borough property is over. Thank you.
Good.
I just
Okay.
need a few seconds and we can go to public safety.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Okay, bye.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thank you.
Night, folks. Oh, I'm sorry, my computer's hanging up. Okay, all right, I'm fine, Mr. Bioki, and I don't have a report, so.
Okay, thank you. We can go to the chief's report. Chief Williams is not present this evening. There was nothing that he needed to comment on. However, I know there were the new officers were sworn in. Maybe the mayor would like to make a comment on that. Mr. Mayor. Okay. Anyway, what I understand is that the officers were sworn in, but there will be an additional ceremony at our next council meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Chief Colella.
Yeah, evening, everybody. Again, it's the first of the month. We don't have our reports done. I won't have a formal report for the next couple months here. We're transitioning our reporting software to a new company, a new vendor. So we're in the transition phase now. We're just getting into the new system so I can have our comprehensive reports back to you hopefully within a month or two. But in the month of February, we had 33 calls for service in February. So that's not bad. 28 days, 33 calls. So we're quite busy. And the new trucks are in service, running well. And we'll be next participating in the chili cook-off on April 30th with the Rotary. And our car cruise is scheduled for the last Saturday in July up at the rec center there. I'm also working with the building inspector on some issues with some trouble buildings in town. He asked me to participate in some inspections with him. So I'll be going out with those for with him in the near future.
Okay, great. Thank you. I missed the report for the police report. That's the public report. I'd like to make sure that that gets into our council meeting so that it's made public for everyone. I don't think that's been happening, but if you could do that, Mr. Morris, I'd appreciate
Or
it.
do you want all 3 pages, you mean? Or
No,
just-
no, the police report to the public, just that.
Just that, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll attach it just to the end of the agenda, if that's okay,
Yeah,
or do you
that-
want it part of the,
No, just to the end of the agenda, just so it's available.
okay,
I think we probably need to start publishing that on the website as well, along with some of these other reports, even if they're just abbreviated without getting into too much detail.
okay.
Mr. Bioki, I had a question, please.
Yes.
On the detail for the police report,
Uh-huh.
I see a listing for animal problem.
Yes.
Do we know what that is? I'm wondering if that's dead deer. I know the police picked them up as well as Public Works. I was just wondering if there was any clarification on that.
Well, in the more complete report, there's a lost animal, animals found, but the one that says animal problem is the one that doesn't have any particular.
Yeah, I was looking at that.
Yeah,
I'm just not
there's-
sure.
Yeah, there's barking dog as well, so. I
They
could
get
check.
called sometimes to deal with raccoons that get in people's garbage cans and stuff
Okay.
like that. There are a variety of things that they get called out for. Animals hit by cars that are not,
Yeah. I can check with chief and get a clarification. Okay. Moving on, EMS report is attached. Everyone can read that. And I believe that's the end of those reports. On to committee business. Most of these are informational. The speed limit sign and traffic study, that's underway. We have McMahon, who's working on getting that completed. The speed limit signs, of course, those are for Ardmore Boulevard. The traffic study was one that was approved at a previous council meeting for looking at our 25-mile-an-hour streets. The parking and directional flow on Pacific Avenue, as well as the traffic directional flow on Ridge Avenue. The first one came up in terms of a problem that fire trucks had with moving down Pacific Avenue. And I think that, again, would be worth taking a look at. And again, it may require a traffic study, but I would like to see maybe traffic flowing in one direction on that part of Pacific Avenue, and maybe just parking on one side of the street. We also had a complaint from a resident last year regarding the same situation. And as far as the directional flow on Ridge Avenue, there's been a number of times where I've actually gone up and down Ridge Avenue, and that is extremely difficult to negotiate. I'm not even sure how a truck would get up that road. So I think that again would be worth taking a look at. So I'd like to have both of those items moved to council for a motion, if that's okay with everyone.
And would those studies be under our traffic engineer at their budget at this time?
Yes.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Oh, okay. The next item I have here is fire hydrant review. As you know from our last encounter, we had a fire hydrant that was blocked by a tree. The tree had to be removed. This past week, the water department was out. They removed the hydrant, installed a new hydrant, and thankfully that was done in time before there was any adverse problems with using that hydrant. But I believe that there are other hydrants that are around the borough that need to be looked at. I have tried to work with the water department to try to get some information on locations of hydrants, the maintenance on the hydrants, et cetera, et cetera. And I've been pretty much stonewalled every time I've had that discussion with them. So I plan to undertake a review of our hydrants and try to get some cooperation from the water department. I put that out as informational only. If anyone else has any questions or they would like to participate in this effort, I'd be happy to have them work with me on that. The next item again is.
Mr. Bioki, I got a comment on that.
Go ahead.
We're gonna be doing some driver training a lot with the new trucks and everything, and one of my goals, when we're out doing that driver training, we're gonna transverse the borough, and we're gonna make any notes of any hazards we see around the fire hydrants while we're doing that. So we'll provide in a few months here, while we're doing this driver training, I'm having my drivers and people going out, looking at the fire hydrants, seeing if there's any issues with blockages or any trouble we might have with them. So I'll be able to give you a report on that, since we're familiar with where most of them are in the borough. We had marked them all previously. Some of our signs are down, but if you see when you're driving around, blue squares, they're reflective on telephone poles or poles. That means there's a fire hydrant somewhere close by there. So that's how we designate a fire hydrant in the middle of the night or somewhere where we don't know where they are. And they're all in a mapping system we have with our reporting software. And when we're dispatched to a fire, the dispatchers could tell us where the closest hydrant is. All through the mapping system, and all our hydrants are GPS located through the CAD, through the county. So they're visible to us, and our dispatchers know when they're dispatching us to a call, where they are. But we're going to look, see if there's any hazards or any obstructions to any of the hydrants while we're driving around in the next couple months here.
Okay.
We'll give you a report back on that.
All right, I appreciate that. And you know, as part of that, one of the things I've been unable to get is any reports on the flow testing that they're supposedly conducting twice a year, and that some of the hydrants look like they haven't been opened in years.
They don't do flow testing twice a year. They flow them twice a year. That is flushing the hydrants. They'll open them in the spring coming up when the weather warms up in the spring, like April. They'll go around, usually their nighttime shift and their overnight shift. They'll go around and open a string of hydrants to flush them, clear the dirty water out, see if there's any debris in them. And then they shut them down and see if there's any leaks or anything.
Right,
And they do that in the fall also. They
right,
don't flow test them. To flow test them, they have to go in a series of hydrants. They have to pick
well,
like 4 or 6 hydrants in a block, open them all and have a residual and a test where they go around with meters and test what the flow is. And that's different than what they're
yeah.
twice a year for us.
Yeah, there might be a difference in terminology here because some of the flow testing included opening the hydrants, checking the color of the water, making sure that there was no obstructions, et cetera, et cetera. But more importantly, regardless, some of those look like they have never been opened, whether they're opening them twice a year or not. I call me skeptical, but I don't believe it.
I understand your concerns. We run into the
yeah.
same thing.
And the other thing is that they're supposedly notifying the residents that they're doing opening hydrants so that they, in case there's a problem, you know, they would be aware of a drop in their pressure. And I've lived here 12 years. I've never gotten a notice that any fire hydrant's been opened.
I
And
think what they do, they put that, if you would call in and say there's a low pressure or discolored water,
yeah,
there's a recording on their phone company's recording that
Yeah.
says flow testing hydrants. But
Yeah.
yeah, you say they're not using their callback system to tell you they're flowing hydrants in your area.
yeah, and that's a lot.
What they should do.
That's a lot different than what they told me that they notify every resident.
Yeah.
So anyway,
We used to do it overnight, and a fireman used to go with the water company guy. We used to start at 11 o'clock until about 3 or 4 in the morning, and we used to go around and do like 10 or 20 hydrants a night. And we
mhm,
would make notes of any obstructions, and the street department would go clear out any grass or shrubbery around them. But they quit doing that because of liability reasons or whatever. So, yeah, we're gonna go out on our own and we'll take care of looking at them and see if there's any obstructions in that.
okay,
Again, their flow testing is not flow testing, like you say, the terminology. The flow testing, you have to use meters and do a block and figure out what the flows are. But we're flushing them is what we're doing twice a year is what they're charging us for.
okay, appreciate it, thank you. The next item is purchase and,
Say-
yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Did you also say that they would refuse to produce any evidence that they are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing every 6 months?
They have been unable, let's put it that way. Their excuse has been that they're using a paper system and they're unable to provide us the documentation. Now they claim that they have to do provide documentation to the county and that the county has it, but unbelievably, they cannot provide us the same documentation. So, you know, I
They can't
started
get-
this almost a year ago, asking for the paperwork, and they've been unable to produce it. So, that's why I want to do a whole review of this and,
Yeah.
you know, have some documentation before I go knock on their door again.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, sure. The next item is the purchase and placement of traffic calming and safety signs. Again, informational only. As the weather is warming up, I want to be able to start to put some signs out that are warning drivers to slow down, that there's pedestrians in the area. I did a presentation before the budget on what types of signs we'd likely be looking at purchasing. So I just wanted to make that an item that everyone's aware of. If anybody has any suggestions on particular signs, we may have to employ McMahon again to give us some, suggestions or recommendations on the proper placement of those signs where they would do the most good for our areas. So again, informational only. And speaking of informational only, I'd like to thank Public Works. They did a lot of work on putting out the school bus stop signs. As of this evening, there were 65 signs that were installed at 22 different stops around the borough. There are 10 stops that are remaining. We've used up all the signs, but of the 10 stops that are remaining, it's questionable as to whether the list that the school board provided was accurate or not. Mr. Thielacker has told me that they've done some spot checking and they could find no students boarding on those 10 stops. So I'm going to be getting with the school board there and see if I can clarify that. But as of right now, we've placed all the signs that we purchased. And again, I appreciate that work. The final item was already brought up. It was about the pre-order of the electric Ford F-150. Nothing more to say about that. And that's the end of the report.
I have a request from our Churchill Borough Council neighbors. They are arranging for executive training for police chiefs in the area. The trainer usually does this out of Philadelphia and makes everybody travel over there. But there's been sufficient interest that they're having a session brought to the western part of our state, and it's going to be in our area. And they wanted to know if we would like to participate in that. It's free. And it would be a question of who would get invited. The person who contacted me is the chairman of the Public Safety Committee. So Angelo, I would like to convey that to you and see if you and the chief would like to participate in that. When she sends, I've just been checking my email. When she sends me the information, I would like to forward it to you if you think that's the appropriate thing to do.
Yeah, I would appreciate it. And also for Mayor
Chuck.
Porco as well, and Chuck.
Okay. So you and Mayor Porco and Chuck. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I'll do-
That's the end of my report.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
Then
okay
Jack,
to
you're on
start.
deck.
I'm okay to start operations and policy. If,
Okay.
It's okay then, okay, manager's update for ops. Mainly some announcements more than anything. I wanted to remind you about the whole banner community designation. One of the factors that we're supposed to participate in is to recognize Local Government Week, which is the second week of April. And that's one of the things they ask us, do we do? Municipalities are encouraged to pass a resolution, a proclamation, draft a letter to the editor, put information on the website or something like that, anything you want to do. So I just wanted to point that out to you, because if you're going to do something, since it's the second week of April, you may want to officially pass a motion or something on March 22nd, or issue a proclamation on March 22nd. I just would need to know what you wanted to do.
Can we just go ahead and do that? Prepare the proclamation. We'll, I guess, pass it this coming on the next business meeting, and then have something put up on the website.
Is somebody going to issue, like, do you want the mayor to issue a proclamation? I mean, I can't as manager, it has to come
No.
from council.
Yeah, even if
We
you
can
just
draft one on behalf of the mayor. And
Yeah, I was gonna say, just draft
Okay.
something.
I think he's monitoring and multitasking and he's not responding. But
Okay, so if you send me something, I can put it into a formal certificate if you want, or whatever. So I guess we don't even need to do that. I know he has a format for proclamations he's been
Yeah.
using. So,
well, I can send you some content if you want some bullet points.
okay, yeah, and then I can give it to Frank.
Okay,
Um,
do that.
Item B, rather, committee vacancies. Those are the ones that are outstanding right now. There's a question in the email today about Environmental Advisory Council. I have one alternate position open. There was one
Mhm.
position that was a regular member, and despite several attempts at contacting them, they never responded to whether or not they wanted reappointed. Their term was up on February 28th, and they were not reappointed. So because we didn't have any of that information, you folks moved 2 people up from alternates to regular to fill the vacancies that were there. And then we added the 2 new people to the alternate positions. There's 3 alternate positions. We have 2 now. So there is still 1 alternate position available. And that's Mark, Mr. Erbaldinger asked me to put Mr. Pike here on the Ops and Policy agenda for tonight because of that.
Okay.
So
I have a question. If
yes,
it's
go
okay, Mr. Lawrence. Who is the member that was unable to be contacted?
it's Tony Jordan.
Tony Jordan? He most definitely wants to be on that committee.
Well, he didn't respond to anything we sent. And Annette, I asked Annette again today. We sent a letter. It was advertised, it was on the website, and we sent follow-up stuff and no response.
I believe there's a question with his email address. Perhaps if he could be emailed one last time. He's really a vibrant group member. And I know he's part of the upcoming event that they're hosting, him and his wife.
Ms. Martin, you're coming in tomorrow. You said, could you bring in his email address when
Yes,
you and me
I'll
and
be
Annette
glad
can talk
to.
about that?
Sure, thank you.
All right. So,
Yeah.
so then we're going to put a hold on Mr. Pike, then I assume. The only,
Yeah.
again, the only problem with is that the position that's open now is an alternate position. And we've already started informing the other people about their being named to either regular or alternate. I don't know if that presents a problem or not, but
Well,
that's what's open.
let me also make a suggestion too, that we need to look at the ordinance as written, as well as the bylaws that were approved by council, because they are in sort of opposed to each other as far as how these folks are appointed. For instance, in the bylaws, it says that the initial term will be for 5 years, and then following that, it'll be for 3 years. And that it had no, in the ordinance, it says that council may appoint at least 1, but no more than 3, and it says may. So there was no real requirement to do that, as you know, for alternates. So I think maybe we need to make sure that the ordinance and the bylaws are in sync with each other before we do
Well,
anything else.
the ordinance would take precedence, and then, you know, regardless, because that's what's on the books as legislation. So that would take precedence right now. You'd have to make a change in the ordinance if you wanted to do something else with it. However
Mr.
you want
Jordan-
to do that.
The person you haven't been able to contact, that seat is still vacant, correct?
No, it isn't. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
I mean, this happens every year. We do have several people who don't respond. We send additional information out again to try to get a response. We call or email or what have you. And if we
Well-
don't get a response, we usually set a date early February, I think was this time, that we wanted a response by. We send something out either late December, early January to them, asking if they want reappointed. We ask them to sign the letter and indicate, yes, I want reappointed, or no, that's okay, I don't. And then, of course, we tell them it's up to council whether or not that will happen, but it's, I wasn't aware of it. I mean, we tried, like I said, to contact them, didn't get anything. So when we did the motion in February, we had the 2 alternates moved to the regular position, so they're all filled. And there are 2 new people as alternates and 1 alternate position that can be filled if you decide you want to do it.
Well, I can tell you that the EAC is not aware that any of what you just said happened, because the alternates are still believe they're alternates, and the members that were members as of December or January are still believe they're
Well,
members.
we contacted people, and, you know, I mean, these boards, I prepare I have a detailed thing that we send out to each board that includes information on what their powers are. That includes information from ordinances if they're in an ordinance, or information from planning. And I mean, I can't babysit them. I don't know exactly what else to do.
Well, I agree with you. They need to understand what they're supposed to do, and maybe they need to come to council and be told that in person. But certainly the chair of that committee is not aware of any of what you just said.
Well, we asked, okay, we did ask the two alternates who were alternates if they wanted to be on as regular members, and they said yes. So we did talk to them. I know I was asked not to say it in public, so I'd have to talk to you separately, but I know that Annette has talked with the chair about several issues. And, you know, those would be things you'd have to talk about in an exec session type situation.
Okay.
Probably. So, you know, or outside of a public meeting. I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to do other than that.
Well, the one simple question is, the person who was on and never responded, we have no alternative, bad term. The only thing we can do is appoint him as an alternate. It's done, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Okay.
environmental advisory, it is advisory. So
Yeah.
they can make the alternates part of discussions, and you know, they can be just as if they were regular members. It depends on, you know, what their rules say and things like that. So that's, you know, it's not like a situation here where council, as if council had alternate, or the zoning hearing board's a better example. It's not a
Yeah.
situation like that where the alternates and members that are actual members have specific duties. Whereas in this
Right, yeah.
case, they don't. So
Yeah,
Well, some
I just
that
think
case
it's
is really
I'm sorry,
not
go
much
ahead.
to discuss. We're just gonna, let's talk in executive session, but sounds like if there's an alternate position open, we'll move him to that. And that's all we can do.
Yeah,
And
I
then,
just think that it's bad form to, not with just the EAC, but with any of these committees, is to move people into the permanent positions without discussing it with the committee first. That particular committee, because they may have some objection, or they may have some reason why they want to.
well, the problem is that these boards all serve at the direction of council. They do not have any power on their own without council, except for zoning hearing board. So, you know, I mean, if they have people that they want to recommend for membership, then that's fine. They can recommend them to you. But the real issue is you're giving them power that they're not supposed to have. Council's supposed to have that power, not them. And I'm not saying you couldn't, as a courtesy, do something, but on the other hand, as a courtesy, we send them letters and information. You know, we could
Maybe
just
when-
tell them their term's up and that's it. But
Well,
you know,
You know how it is. Maybe it went to his spam folder. I don't know.
yeah, it could
Possible.
have been. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you do. I mean, you need to have,
Yeah.
you know, extra time for people to track all this stuff down sometimes, you know, but I mean, we did follow up. It's not like we didn't try. So,
well, it's where it is at this point. Ultimately, it is the council's decision who goes on these committees and who does not. And over the years, we have had committees recommend people that the council rather firmly refused to appoint. So it is up to us in the end. So,
well, if I could say
All right.
one last thing, Mr. Lawrence, about that is that in the past councils have had problem with various boards and committees who thought that they had the power to make a decision on a lot of different stuff. And it took
Oh,
a
yeah.
long time for those councils to get those people in line and say, no, you're appointed, you're advisory, again, with zoning hearing board being the only exception. That's one reason why I wrote those guidelines. That's about 6 pages long. I know I shared them with council at one time. New members may not have gotten. I'd be happy to share them with you too if you want. But just let me know, email me, and I'll send them out to you. or Annette
Okay.
can send them to you. She has them as
Yeah.
well.
No harm. Everyone should probably know about that. I'm
Um,
not sure there's much else about it tonight.
Okay, well, we'll try to see what we can do about Mr. Jordan though in the meantime.
Yeah.
I'll talk to Ms. Martin tomorrow and Mr. Belkey, if we could talk again later.
Yeah.
Off the recording, that'd be good.
Okay.
Savvy Citizen, we've added a few more followers from 1541 to 1590. Nothing really more to say about that. We keep getting people every month. It seems like being added to it. We are promoting it. We do have different things that we use to promote it, of course. Probably maybe need to think of some other issues, other ways of doing it as well. The last item, just outstanding items, I had brought up a list of all the different policies that have been put into place by council over the years, even just in the last 20 some years that I've been here. And I just want to keep it on here as a reminder, because I want to make sure everyone's aware that sometime if the staff is doing something, we're doing it because a policy was in place. It may not be something you want, that's fine, but then you need to get rid of that policy formally, because almost all policies were done either in committee or by vote of council. And we have a lot of them. You saw the list I gave you, so I'm not going to keep
Yeah.
saying this every month, but I just wanted
No.
to mention again, that's why I have it on here. That's all I
No, and
have.
it's incumbent on members who come across a policy they find is outmoded or inappropriate to bring it up in some policies, and we'll review it or purge it or change it.
Yeah, okay. That's all I have, Mr. Lawrence.
Okay. Ms. Martin, I think you had two things, so we'll just have you come in and cover them both.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yes, I recently spoke to a candidate that's running for office in Swissville, and I heard of a lot of the initiatives that they've done. And I thought one that Forest Hills might consider would be to have recognition of Pride Month for June. Any
Mhm.
comment?
I think it'd be a nice idea.
Great excuse for a parade.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe
I
a
just
party?
Last year I was over at Edgewood Town Center to use the gym, and it was on a Saturday, and there was all these people with their flags and everything, and it was the Swissville parade.
Yeah.
I was one of those I didn't know. I don't know where we could push that initiative.
Could have a picnic in the park,
Yeah.
you know.
That's the rec board we want to look at.
That would probably be a good place to
Yep.
start.
You want me to have,
Okay.
want me to mention it to Walt, Mr.
Yep.
Reamer?
Good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. That's the right solution. We're not proposing any specific thing, but any ideas I have would be great. Thanks.
Thank you.
And then
We
C was deer
we
feeding.
could do a resolution for Pride Month. We don't do any for Black History Month or Women's Month, which is this month, but the resolution might be appropriate.
No harm.
Since you mentioned Women's Month, there is a notice on the pool sign about Women's Month.
Yes, and there was once about Black History Month.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Should we move on?
Yes.
Yeah, Ms. Martin, I think letter C was deer feeding, so we'll keep you on the podium here, or the lectern here.
Oh, okay. Just jumping ahead there. I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
wanted to report that the Deer Management Committee, comprised of myself, Vice President DeMarco, and Mr. Bioki, recently met, and we did discuss something new with the ordinance that we already have in place, perhaps considering a fine, as well as doing community outreach, education, and looking into moving forward with getting in touch with the Fish and Game Commission. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We'll keep us up on what's going on. And then the middle one, the last thing was B, and that's removal of abandoned vehicle visible between 20 on Ardmore Boulevard. And who's
That was
Mr.
me.
Baoki? I think that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was actually Miss Martin called that to my attention. I took a look at it and I asked the chief as well as Don Branzel to see if they could identify whose property that was on and maybe whose vehicle that it was. The vehicle has probably been there for about 10 years. It's a wreck. It looks like a junkyard there. We have a new business that's moving into that one of those buildings. And I think removing that would be in everyone's best interest. I believe the property owners, it's possible it was a property of a lot that I believe the house was torn down. So finding the ownership of that might be difficult. I think it would be easier if we can get our contract tow company to come in and just remove it. It may require, there's a few small trees that are in front of it that are blocking it. But if they could be removed, I think we should try to get that towed out of there.
Well, that's probably a good idea, and I'm sure if it's sitting there, it's probably leaching something unpleasant into the ground.
Yeah, I mean, if sooner or later somebody's going to decide that it's a good place to play in or do some other damage with it, so I think it would be in everybody's.
Have a good
best interest.
bonfire. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we go ahead and do that?
Oh, well, I could talk to Jimmy about removing those trees. I could talk to Chuck about getting whoever they use to tow to come in there after that and remove. If that's what you folks want to do, that's not a problem.
Anybody objections to us doing that?
No,
It's a hazardous material opportunity. We should get rid of it.
And if we try to figure out who's responsible and dig it up, we'll spend more in lawyers' fees than we will to the
Yeah.
towing company.
They were unable to look at the VIN. It was obscured, and the last time it was inspected was in 2019 or 2009. I'm sorry, 2009. Yeah.
Ooh,
Don Branzel told me today that there was that he and the chief had looked and there was nothing identifying it that they could find other than what you mentioned with the inspection sticker.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, like I said, if nobody has an objection, let's move ahead and do it. Whatever needs to be done, get out of there. That's not good to have it.
I'll talk to them tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. I gotta mention this, just to mention it, Marcus has said, we want to start looking at various contracts we have out there. And this is just a comment. At some point, we might want to look at who we have doing the towing. In my years, I don't think it's ever been discussed who does that for us, and why they get the calls. So it might be something we want to look at in the next year.
Yeah, that's all through the police. I don't honestly know.
Yeah, it is, and I think it just has been going on for ages, and it might be time to give a. But again, that's just a comment. We don't have to worry about that.
We have two vendors, Jack, that do it,
Okay.
and they alternate months so that they're not constantly on night calls.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
I agree. It probably makes sense to just revisit that and kind of see what we're getting.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the information. So, I think that I don't have anything else. Does anyone else have anything to bring up tonight?
No, guess not.
If not, so
I'm
all
not
right.
sure what committee this would go under, but we're having a lot of trouble getting update data from the utilities for updating our climate action plan. I've been working with both Annette and Allison to try to get responses. I find that communities besides us are having this same issue. I've talked to the city of Pittsburgh, to Etna, to Millville and Mount Lebanon and Wilkinsburg, and everybody is having the same problem. So we're looking at possibly sending a petition to the Public Utilities Commission asking for assistance in obtaining information that should be readily available to us upon request. So just wanted to let you know about that in case we end up on the front page of the paper over it for some reason.
I don't know about that, but that does fold in with the discussion about getting information out of the Wilkinsburg Penn Joint Water Authority.
Seems to be a universal problem. They're just recalcitrant to give out information of any kind, and I think it's an arrogance and it impedes our ability to do our work. We have interns working on a marketing plan for our business district, and they wanted that information as part of their work. And all we can give them is what's in the 2018 data from our climate action plan adopted in 2019. So I wanted to get a benchmark before our first milestone of 2025, just so we get an idea of where we stand and a sort of a post-COVID assessment of where we stand. And it's been impossible to get any information out of them. I mean, for our own buildings, you know, you go to the December utility bills and you can get the average annual use. It's a bit of a pain in the neck, but I can do that by digging through folders. Consolidated information on the residential sector, the commercial sector, the transportation sector, we can't get that without their help. So
Okay.
just a heads up.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? Sounds like we're all signing off until the next meeting.
Okay, see you
Good
all on
night.
Tuesday
Good.
night. Good night. The Zoom stuff should be out, I hope, by Monday.